Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of pastthewire.com.
Hi, I'm Tommy Masters, and I thought I knew it all until I started reading Past the...
Tell me what you want.
Everybody, Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING, get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Past the Wire's handicapping seminar. Pace makes the race. Thank you all for coming, and those who are not here and going to listen to the replay, thank you as well. We may even post this on the YouTube channel and in the podcast. Possibly, we'll see how it goes. But I think it's going to be interesting, and I think that pace is one of the most crucial factors, at least for me, in handicapping. What I did recently, and I don't really do this, and those of you that have done these with me and have watched these kind of know that I'm really not one that watches a lot of the other stuff out there. I did check out some of the stuff that's out there, some of the podcasts that people are doing, some of the information. There's a little bit of good information out there. Most of it is horrible. I mean, really bad. This game is so tough and tough enough, on its own, that when people are trying to learn and get more information and get, good, decent opinions and, bounce ideas off of each other, and there's so much garbage floating around out there, it irks me a little bit because it makes a tough game even tougher. This game's tough enough, and there is a ton of garbage out there. But I could say this: if you're looking for the ace, you're in the right place. What the information we're going to give you is definitely not going to be garbage. And I would suggest avoiding that as much as you can going forward. It's just you got to kind of navigate your way through it, what you want to listen to. And one of the things I always say, and to me, it's the only barometer of somebody who's giving out good or bad information. And that's if they beat the game. Okay. If somebody loses and they're telling you how to bet or what to do, and they lose. Why are we listening to them? Makes no sense to me. They're not somebody that we should be listening to. The other day, somebody who I respect as a horse person made a comment. Okay, I normally don't listen. I watch with the mute on, but there was a storm in Florida. Okay, and the satellite. I usually have the racing network package, and I watch the track feeds. I couldn't do it because the satellite kept going out because of the storm. So I happened to be on the exercise bike watching the races, and I had to watch on the Roku on. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to call it out, but I had to watch on the app for this particular racetrack. Okay, and one of the analysts slash commentators that, like I said, I respect as a horseman and I've met in person, and they're a nice person. And if they were here, I would tell it to their face. You're absolutely dead wrong. It's an asinine statement. They said, and some of you may recognize who it is. And if you do, don't say it. It just, you know, we don't want to call nobody out, but they were looking at horses in the paddock and they made the comment, oh, this horse looks so good. This is my pick, blah, 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 blah. You know, sometimes you're better off not to even have a racing form. There is no time that you're better off not having a racing form unless you're not betting. And I don't believe this person bets. I believe they all day stay on television saying, this is my top pick. 4-1 is a Christmas time on this horse. Christmas time? How's it Christmas time if you don't bet? You never bet. I know 30, 40 years I know this person. Never known him to make a bet. So I just thought that was a perfect example of the asinine information's out there, because there are people that are trying to enjoy the game and get better at it and win at it. And then you have somebody that they're looking up to make a comment like that. You know what I mean? So the next thing you know, some inexperienced person is going to be at the racetrack in the paddock picking the horses by the way they look. You know, hey, you could pick Miss America by the way they look. If it's a beauty contest, you're not going to pick a racehorse by the way, by the way they look. You know, it's just a shame that there's so much bad information from people that should be using their knowledge and their skill to kind of help people. We're all going to be wrong more than we're going to be right. Okay. But you know, listening to just bad information like that is just a bad practice. That said, pace is so important. I'm going to talk a little bit about pace. Then I'm going to turn over to my co-host, Michael Vale. He likes to interrogate me about these kind of things. So he'll interrogate me and ask me questions. Hopefully I know the answers, don't embarrass myself. If I don't, I'm an honest guy. I will tell you, I don't know. But the odds of that are pretty slim.
Ready for you, John.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, you got me a couple times, but and then I'll turn it over to a Q&A about pace with all of you, and any general handicapping questions that you might have. And then, like I said, I'll do a little AMA. You know, people send me questions. Sometimes I know I missed a few on the last seminar we did for the Belmont Stakes, which I think we did pretty good on that seminar. And before we move on, I will say this on the record. I believe that Adamo could have and should have won that race, which would have made Clairiere, Mo Donegal, and Adamo. We would have gone 3 for 3 on the horses we liked the most. I think Pratt was a little too patient. And when he decided to go, if you watch mid-stretch, he had nowhere to go. They were all bottled up around him. And the other Chad Brown horse, who we feared and we talked about, maybe get away, go wide, just did. Mo Donegal was never in doubt. Clairiere, we needed a trip. We got it. But I think we could have gone 3 for 3. And I still will say that Adamo will win one of these big races before the end of the year. The horse I like today at Belmont, what makes Sammy run? Not so much. But Adamo, yes. Anyway, back to pace. Crucial element of my handicapping. Okay. And I think a lot of people overlook it. Okay. Pace is not something that you can use any product out there to calculate. All right. And I will tell you why. Okay. And this is why I don't fear CAW, or computer assisted wagering players, okay? Because there are vulnerabilities that they can't beat us on, all right? Now, this is not something that you're going to get good at overnight, but if you practice and you study and you watch, you will get better at it, and that will give you an advantage over them, okay? I mean, what better example of pace making the race do we have if we want to show that pace makes the race than the Kentucky Derby, okay? Rich Strike was not the best horse. Rich Strike is not the best horse. Rich Strike is not better than 75 or 80% of those horses, but he won on Derby Day. Why? Because we had a pace meltdown. Horses went faster than they're used to going over a longer distance of ground than they're used to going, and they just had nothing left. The horses that ran second and third benefited from it. I don't think Epicenter's trip was as bad as a lot of people think. I don't think he was that close to that pace where you have to kind of go, wow, Epicenter. But you know, Zandon came from well off it. He just couldn't finish. Rich Strike could. You know, pace determined the Derby winner, pace and trip. You know, Mo Donegal had a very, very wide trip, benefited from that pace, was finishing well. And had he been more towards the inside, like we discussed on the Belmont webinar, he might have been the Derby winner. That we'll never know, but we do know without any stretch of the imagination, pace influenced and actually determined the outcome of that race. And it influences many races: turf, dirt, sprint, route. When I announced this webinar, put the advertisement or the article out there, whatever, to tell people about it, somebody wrote to me and said, "Oh, pace doesn't matter in turf races." That's ridiculous. Okay, and we'll explain. I'll explain why, in my opinion, that's ridiculous. It does matter, and it does influence the race. Yes, you will see races where on the turf a horse goes out 25, 50, 116 by himself, and they still get inhaled. Okay, class is important in horse racing. Okay, and a lot of times when you go back and look at those races and you look at the pace, you'll notice that, yeah, he did go 25, 50, 116, should have been able to win. But the horses that beat him consistently run faster last quarters by 2 or 3 seconds than that horse, you know? So yeah, they were able to inhale him. And if you know, class shows, there's an old saying about class that is a great example of that you also have to bear in mind. Let's take a $20,000 claimer that's a hard knocker that runs all the time, and you look at their PPs and you see, man, every time this horse goes to the racetrack, he runs 109 and change, 109 and change, 109 and change. He does it at Aqueduct, Belmont, Gulfstream in the winter, wherever they send him, this horse runs 109 and change, 110 and change, okay? And then they move him into an allowance race or a conditioned claimer. And there's a grade 1 horse in there, his first race back or getting ready or coming off a layoff. They run the race in 112 and change. And the stake horse is 5 lengths in front of him. And you're like, why? How is that? Because class shows, you know, athletes can perform to their competition. You know, when they're running against a horse that's much better than them, you kind of get outclassed. And those of you that have ever played any kind of sport, be it basketball, one-on-one, football, baseball, yeah, you will rise to the occasion when you're playing an athlete that's better than you. Okay, you will rise up to that if you're an athlete. But at some point, when they start to really dig in and you start to really dig in, you can't match with them. It's going to break your heart at some point. You just can't do it. Horses are no different. So class will tell, and class will affect the outcome of a race and will affect how horses perform. But pace on a day-to-day basis and on an equal playing field is vital. Now, I've always said, and people have always asked me, why does it take you so long to handicap a card? And I've explained that I have my, you know, methodology that I go through to handicap a card. I watch a lot of replays. I take a lot of notes. You know, I look at the past performances. We've already discussed on some of the seminars how most people read them wrong. They read from the top down instead of the bottom up, and you miss patterns and things like that. But one of the things I do is I use Formulator. Okay. Formulator allows me to look at a race two ways, and I do look at them both ways, okay? One, it allows me to look at the fractional times the same way most everybody else does, and that's the horse in front, their call, and then you kind of looking at the horse you're looking at, let's say, you know, the half went in 46-2, and your horse was, you know, the horse that you're looking at now was like 4th by 5, okay? You don't, you know, you kind of have to calculate what he ran the half in and what he ran each quarter in. And most people will say that a second is 5 lengths. I believe it's closer to 5 or 6 lengths, and there's a variable there depending on the distance and the conditions and whatnot. But 5 to 6 lengths is fair for a second, okay? Formulator allows you, okay, to go into settings and look at the fractional times for that particular horse. So if a horse is running, and I don't know what the fractions was, but let's say you would have looked at the fractional times of you know, Mo Donegal in the Kentucky Derby. He was way in the back. You would have saw like 25, you know, 26 for the next quarter, whatever they were. Instead of seeing the leaders' fractional times and having to calculate back, that saves me a ton of work, because that lets me know how fast this horse runs each quarter mile. Okay, that's crucial. Most horses slow down. How much do they slow down? One of the things that I look for and helps me tremendously when I do my handicapping is, and I make my notes on the Formulator. I used to do it by hand on the paper, print them out. Now I do it all on the iPad or on the computer with the graphics and whatnot. And it works. It works for me. It takes some getting used to switching from the writing, but it's technology and you could save it. And I like that. So what I do is I figure out who runs the fastest middle quarter for that distance, and for that specific distance, because I'll only look at it for when I'm doing these averages for that particular distance race, and surface, obviously, and who runs the average fastest last quarter. Okay. And you will not believe how, when I then kind of figure out how the race is going to run, how it's so much more accurate as far as who's going to be sitting where and who's going to be running at the end, okay, and who's not. And when you combine your notes from what you observed with that, to me, you've got an invaluable edge over 90% of the players. And getting back to the CAW players, what they can't factor in and what you can is intangibles, okay? Some jockeys we know like to go, okay? Luis says, if he's got a speed horse, he's going. He's not rating, he's not sitting, he's going from the bell, okay? You've got to beat him on the front end. There are some guys don't like to go. Julien Leperot, if he's on a speed horse, you don't know if he's going to go or not. If there's any chance in the world that that horse is going to go back and settle and take back, he's going to do it. It's just his style, his preference. You get to learn these little idiosyncrasies that you can't program into a computer model, okay? Those are the kind of things that you just can't program. And I brought this out to a friend of mine who's a bloodstock agent. He may be on this webinar. He comes a lot to a lot of these webinars. Irad Ortiz is a rider that I made an observation about, okay? If he gets out of the gate slow on a horse, you could rest assured the next race, he's not getting out slow. He corrects the errors that he makes race to race. He's very, very aggressive that way and very, very aware of things that didn't go right. So a lot of times I'm looking at a race during the day. Obviously, you can't do this kind of work in advance, but this is something no computer model ever is going to know. There's a speed or two speeds in the race, and you're trying to figure out the speed of the speed or whatever the case may be. Irad broke bad with a speed in a race or two before that. He's going. He's not making that mistake again. Intangibles like that, computer models can't pick up.
A little drink.
You can. So I keep notes on all these kind of things, and eventually they get in your brain. So if you know, you can do that and start doing that, I recommend it highly. Now, if you don't use Formulator, you're at a disadvantage because you've got to kind of look at the pace on your own. You got to kind of use that second being 5 to 6 lengths and kind of figure out who's going to be where. And that's incredibly time consuming. So yeah, Formulator is expensive, but for me, I look at it differently. I'm like, hey, I'm investing money. If I'm investing money in a card, I want to have every edge that I could have. I want to have the information that I feel I need to make good decisions at my fingertips. And knowing those fractional times for the specific horse, to me, is vital. And there's been many times I'm talking to a friend of mine about handicapping, and, oh, who do you think is going to be on the lead in this race? If I'm wrong, it's usually because I didn't do the race yet. You know what I mean? And they asked me early, you know, like if you ask me about Saturday's races, I don't know. I didn't do them yet. You know what I mean? Like I might have glanced and said, oh, I think so-and-so might be on the lead, or I think so-and-so is going to be the speed. But I don't really know that until I look at that Formulator both ways. Like I said, I look at it with the times and, you know, for the leader and then the individual horse times. And it's just a click of a box in the settings where you could get it that way. The only thing it doesn't give that I wish it did is the final time for the horse you're looking at. At the end of the day, it gives the final time of the race, not that particular horse, but you still know how fast they ran the last quarter, which is something that to me, I really want to know. So once you know who's going out, who's laying second and third, you know, who's in each flight, you can paint a picture of, okay, here's where I think everybody's going to be around the first quarter. Okay, we factor in the intangibles. Here's where I think everybody's going to be at the half. Here's where I think everybody's going to be at the 3/4. Here's where everybody's going to be at the mile. Here's where everybody's going to be at the mile and an eighth. And you kind of figure out who's running at the end, if they have too much to do, and then then you apply your regular handicapping principles, but you have an accurate prediction of pace based on how fast the horses have run in the past. And to me, there's nothing like knowing who's going to be where, when, and who's going to be finishing and who's not. And there's no other way I know how to do that. I've looked at pace projectors. I've looked at pace figures. Oh, he's got the best early pace, he's going to be on the lead. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But when you look with your own eyes and see that this horse runs an average first quarter in 7 furlong races of whatever, and nobody else does, or one other horse does, but yet this horse got a faster early pace figure, I'll take the horse that runs the fractions better. The fractions don't lie. They'll beat buyers all day till Sunday. It just, it's one of the few things in racing that is what it is. The times are what they are. They don't lie. Figures can be manipulated. Figures can be subjective. Times are wrong. We know that there's issues with the timing of races. But what I hope they're at least getting right is, okay, if the race went 22-2 or 23-3, whatever the case may be, at least I'm hoping that the fractional times in comparison with the other horses is accurate. I'm not going to bother hand time in every race. So I'm hoping that, and I see enough science to it to believe that that is true. Where when I just look at raw times or time a race randomly, I see a lot of mistakes, but I don't see a lot of mistakes in the former. So I'm encouraged about that. So to me, if you want to handicap a race and you're going to bet a card, one of the first things you do is you try and figure out the pace. Who's the speed? Who's the stalker? Who's the middle of the pack? Who are the closers? How fast are they going to be running? How fast are they capable of running? And most importantly, at the end of the day, how fast are they capable of finishing each horse. Where is he going to be? Okay, if he's going to be, probably anywhere from 5 to 8 lengths off the lead, turning for home. Okay, or at the half, or at 3/4, and he comes home in an average final quarter of 24, or whatever the case. Is that going to get him there? And when you start looking at that and doing that kind of homework, yeah, it takes time, but you're going to be sitting there with a lot more confidence than trusting some early or late pace figure to tell you who's going to be running at the end, or he's got the best late pace figure, so he's the best closer. There's no shortcut to doing the work. It's like when you were back in school. If you didn't do your homework or didn't study for the test, you were there trying to look at somebody else's paper. You know what I mean? There was no shortcut around that, unless it was multiple choice and you just winged it. But if you didn't, then you were up against it. So same thing with racing. If you're betting money, come prepared. Don't come unprepared. There's no reason to. That's my thought on that. So Michael, why don't you throw some questions at me about pace and how I approach it, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. Got a bunch of questions. We'll see how far we go, and then we'll open it up to everybody else.
Absolutely.
I guess my first question, a little off the wall, maiden races, John. Okay, obviously we're gonna have limited form to look at. How do you approach your pace in those type of races? Do you even look at pace at all in those types of things, or are you looking at sires that had speed, workout times, that sort of thing?
I look at workout times. I try and watch workouts. Now we can watch a lot of workouts. Okay, and watching workouts gives you a tremendous advantage over just looking at times, because you can see if a horse is under wraps, they can go faster. If a horse is being held, they can go faster. If a horse is just on a loose gallop, they can go faster. So I try and watch, less information sometimes is more, because people aren't going to go through all of that trouble. Okay. You can find a lot of the workouts now online, especially for the stakes races. I try and watch as many as I can. I try and look at as much as I can. Yes, I look at sires. Yes, I look at trainers that I know train for speed. There are certain trainers that train for speed. There are certain trainers that run their horses into shape. Ian Wilkes, he's a real good trainer. He's probably not going to the lead in a 5/8 maiden special weight race, Wesley Ward might not have the best horse, might have a cheap horse, but he's
going to
probably
the front,
show speed in that same race. So, and those again are the kind of things where we can have an edge over the CAW players, over the rebate and the computer players, because you can't program that into a computer.
No, it's a fair point, John. That's kind of why I wanted to ask his questions that, are going to give us advantages over the CAWs. Kind of on that same note, and we just came off Ascot, where you had another great meet. How do you approach pace differently over in Europe versus in the US? Because it's quite a bit different over there.
Well, it's a whole different game over there. Over there, you have much less information, and a lot of races you can't even get the splits, so you don't even know what they are. The final time. So there, you really I make notes. You know what I mean? Horse has early speed. Horse has a little speed. Horse likes to stalk. Horse could show more speed. They always cover them up or take them back. And I just try and figure that out. And then I make notes on how they finish. So I found that when Formulator or Daily Racing Form puts past performances up, they're good. Brisnet, I think, is second best. For those of you who don't know, there's a site called Hollywood. It's what's the casino in Pennsylvania? Hollywood.
That's Hollywood Park,
right,
or not Hollywood Park. It's
right. Okay, they put out every day free international PPs. If you Google free international past performances, it'll come up Hollywood Casino something, and you click on it. A lot of people don't know, and they'll have all the cards. Like Saturday, there are big races at Newmarket.
That might be Penn National, John.
Right.
I'll have to check.
Penn National.
I'm not sure.
Penn National. It is. but you can always get free past performances there. Saturday, they'll be running at Newmarket, and they'll be running the Irish Derby and the Philly Tuesday, that one at Royal Ascot that I like. She was supplemented into the Irish Derby. So yeah, European races, you're just at a tremendous disadvantage about pace unless you watch them and take notes like I do. And that gives you a tremendous edge.
Yeah, I guess the big information you get in those type of races are country of origin. Do you notice, like, especially for the turf racing, that different countries tend to breed speed more than others?
Not to the point where I think it's significant. I think,
Or is it more towards the sires, right? If you
I
get
think,
into
yeah,
Bali.
towards the sires. I think it's towards the sires. I think the Australian horses are a little faster than the UK, you know, the England and the Ireland horses and the French horses early anyway. But you know, I don't think it's that significant.
No, fair enough. One thing I wanted to ask you about, John, I think one of the toughest types of horses people have betting are closers, right? Obviously, pace meltdowns are what we're looking for when we're trying to bet a closer. Are there any other situations where that aren't as obvious where you like closers?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because it takes us back to the turf scenario. Okay, a lot of times, especially in New York, you know, everybody's got that mindset, and I think I traced it. Okay, I really do. I think I did a good sleuth job on this. Okay, it kind of changed how they ride turf races in New York right around when Jerry Bailey was dominating the grass races. And Jerry always used to say, and he used to dominate grass races in New York more so than anybody dominates anything in the sport right now. Okay. He was just dominating rider on the grass, on anything, but especially on the grass. And he would always say that on the turf, the last move wins. Okay. And I think so many people, so many riders try to emulate that they just got that mindset. You got to sit and wait and sit and wait and sit and wait and make that last run on the turf. And it does hold true a lot. You know, you know, guy running late on the turf wins a lot of those races. But what I look at is, okay, not necessarily, okay, like how you put it, Michael, for a pace meltdown. Okay, sometimes you like a horse that comes off the pace, and you know you're going to get one of those races where nobody goes, one horse goes, and they let him go. How am I going to win? Well, what I look at is if my horse runs, I'll look at that last quarter that he runs, and I'll look at his past performances straight down the line. Okay, and you're all seeing the fractional time of the horse in front. Okay. And I don't know how many of you actually bother to figure out how fast the horse you like is coming home or running those late quarters. I do, but I have it right in front of me on Formulator. So I see, okay, right. He runs, you know, bang, 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 bang. These are all his last quarters. Okay. Yep. He comes home fast enough to catch that horse, even if they let him go. You know what I mean? Because that other horse, even if they let him go, no matter what quarters he runs early, his last quarter is always 25. You know what I mean? 25, 24 and 4, 25, 25. My horse is 23, 24, 20. He's going to be able to get him because he's only going to be so many lengths back.
No, so, I really noticed that, especially with my sister Charlie's races, like in the peak of her career, where right. I actually preferred when she had less pace to run into for that exact reason. Because if she made the last move and she was within 4 or 5 lengths of the lead, nobody was going to get
you. Now, a friend of mine who's a good handicapper will have this conversation. Well, he calls me Saturday mornings, wants to know who I like. I tell him, oh, I love this horse in this race. Oh, there's no pace on the grass. Now, how's he going to get up? There's no speed. Is other horse going to waltz? I'm like, no, he's not. He's going to waltz early, not late. You know, perfect example is We the People in the Belmont. Okay, that was on the dirt. But remember, we talked about We the People. For those of you that were on the Belmont seminar, a lot of people like We the People. I was like, I think, Michael, you asked me, are you afraid he's the only speed? What I tell you? No. I said, I don't care if he's the only speed. I don't care what they let him do. If they let him waltz around, they're going to run by him late.
Right.
So one of the things that jumps out, I'll get to all these questions in the chat. I promise. I can't see them now. I see that they're there, but I don't have it open, but I will open it. We'll get to them all. No worries. So just keep throwing them in there and don't think I'm ignoring anybody. We're going to get to everybody. So, yeah, you know what I mean? I will bet a horse that I think is gonna finish fast. There was one day, there was a horse I put on on tracking trips, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. We got on a little hot run, and I want to say the horse's name was Shooters something, Shooters Straight or Shooters Shoot or something like that. Umberto Rispoli rode the horse. And I remember I put on tracking trips, love this horse. He's absolutely going to be flying at the end of the race. And a couple of people told me I was nuts, and he went off a big price, like 15, 18, and he exploded, ran by everybody. That was one of those rare examples where he consistently ran the fastest last quarter for like just a dozen races. You know what I mean? Just consistently. If he was anywhere within contact of the field, he was going to win, you know, and he was 15-1. If you do that, okay, perfect example. If you're a sheets guy, and I used to be a big sheets guy, still look at them, okay? But if you're a thoroughbred or a rags guy and a horse is consistently faster on thoroughbred or rags, okay? That's a sheet everybody buys. They see the number. They see, oh, this horse runs a 0, 0, 0, 0. Everybody else is running 2s. That horse is going to be 4-5. No question about it, 6-5, 3-5. You're never going to find a horse that's lights out faster than everybody else on the sheets. That's the price. You used to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there were horses that were flat out faster that were 20-1, and we were all making scores because there was only a handful of sheet players back then. Today, there's a zillion of them, okay? Fastest horse on the sheets is going to be the chalk, okay? You're not going to get a price on that horse. I use the sheets to determine sometimes horses that are too slow, but, and I wish I remembered the horse's name. I'm getting old. I apologize. A lot of too much partying in my youth. It was Shooter, whatever that horse's name was. You will find a horse like that using the methodology that I'm describing now, where you're looking at the quarter. He was absolutely the fastest last quarter consistently. And you would have known, you would have felt in your heart like I did, if this horse is within 6, 8, even 10 lengths, he's going to outfinish him. And he was, and he just blew by them. You won't get that anywhere else because those raw numbers, if you got to stick out, even on, I don't know how many people use like late pace figures on Brisnet or early pace on Brisnet. But if you've got a horse that absolutely stands out on any one of those categories, everybody that uses that thing is going to be betting them. How many people are going to bother to do the work that we're talking about right now? Not a lot. Half of you are not going to do it. Maybe more than half of you are not going to do it. But the ones that do are going to have that shoot happen 4, 5, 6, 10 times a year. You only need a couple of those, okay? You only need a couple of those. So if you play this game seriously like I do, and you play to make scores and you play to make it count and you're willing to do that, yeah, we're all going to lose. But when you got one of those and you make it count, there's no better feeling. And everybody is not going to know it. You're going to know it. And you're going to see it in black and white. So yeah, it takes time. And that's why people, you know, I have people laugh at me. I was on a panel at EquestriCon years ago. The first EquestriCon they ever had in Saratoga. They put me on a panel and they were talking to the panelists about how long it takes them to handicap a card. And everybody's like, oh, I use this program 15 minutes. Oh, I use this program half an hour. I'm like, I don't use any program. I do a sequence, a pick 6 sequence or a pick 5 sequence. Takes me 4 or 5 hours. They laughed at me. Yeah, I'm a dinosaur. I can't do 4 or 5 cards a day. You know, I have trouble at Saratoga and Del Mar when I got to do 2 sequences or 2 cards because it's just, I run out of time and I'm getting old. I get tired, but I will not compromise doing my work just to bet. Okay. If you don't have discipline and patience, you're done. Okay. You're going to get swallowed up. You're on a suicide mission. You have to do it. So if I get too tired and I can't do Del Mar, I'm not betting. I'm watching and taking my notes, but I'm not investing my money. But they were laughing at me on that panel. But I guarantee you, of the 5 people that were on the panel, I'm the only one that makes money that's in the black at the end of the year. They could do all their cards and make all their bets and be all over the place in, 10 minutes with all their programs. but they're not winning 50, 100,000, 150,000 and a couple of bets over the course of a year. They just, I know they're not doing it. So that's a huge takeaway. My opinion for most of you, if you do the work and invest in it, it will pay off at some point, and that's a great trick. Great trick.
No, it's great information, John, as always. I think this is a good question to ask you because you're not quite as price dependent as I bet. You kind of pick a horse you like and you press your opinion.
I get criticized by some players I respect all the time for that.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to bet a favorite. I'm not afraid to bet against a favorite. Most of you who follow me know that. I'll bet a 20-to-1 shot as hard as I will a 2-to-1 shot if I like them as much. You know what I mean? But I won't not bet a 2-to-1 and bet a 10-to-1 because I don't bet against my own opinion. If I think a horse is going to win the race, I don't bet against that horse. I don't think there's any value in a losing wager. Some people will argue that and say, oh no, there is. This is a better bet. I believe there's no value whatsoever in a losing bet. So I don't want to bet against my own opinion. I will find a way to bet a short priced horse and create value if it's possible. If it's not, I may not bet, but I'm certainly not going to bet against the horse that I think is going to win.
Right. And that's why I wanted to ask you this question, because you touched a little bit on it when you were talking about class. How far above the field do you want your horse to be if you got to overcome a tough pace scenario? So if it obviously a closer going into a slow pace or vice versa, a speed horse that has to contend.
He's got to be, if I'm betting a horse that looks much, are you asking me if I'm betting a horse that's slower and looks slower than other horses based on class?
No, the opposite. So you think it's the best horse, right? But he's going into a tough pace scenario depending on how he runs. So how much classier do you need that horse to be to still make a bet, even though he's in a tough pace scenario?
If I think he's the fastest horse, but he's moving up in class?
No, the scenario, John, would be he's going down in class,
right?
But the pace scenario doesn't suit him.
Okay, but he's the classiest horse, but
right. How much classier do you need the horse to be to still bet on it?
I will very rarely bet a horse that I don't think gets a decent setup. I will upgrade a horse based on class that way and say, you know what? He might just be too good for these, but if his setup is just terrible, he'd have to be significantly classier. You'd have to take like a grade 1 winner running against grade 3 or conditioned.
And that's what I kind of wanted to get at, because I think some people think that pace is an overweighted handicapping tool, meaning that, of course, I don't think anybody would say that pace doesn't matter, but I think a lot of people put class above pace, and it sounds like you actually weight them pretty darn equally.
Absolutely. Very, very close together. Listen, one of the oldest sayings in racing is pace makes the race. And it certainly does. Does anybody think that Onion was better than Secretariat? No. Okay, but Onion was coming out of sprints, sharp sprints. I think he ran 5 days or a week before an allowance race sprinting. He went to the lead, and the big horse was pinned on the inside, just couldn't get by him. Prove out, beat Secretariat, same way. Got out, pace will make the race. You can get ahead of a good horse, and if you can finish, you can beat them.
Yeah, the domestic spending, just narrowly losing that last Arlington Million comes to mind too. But absolutely, John. So let me give you a couple more scenarios, and I'll open up to the rest of the crew here. You touched on it briefly. Here's a scenario. The scenario I want to give you is like, let's start first with lone speed. Okay. In a lone speed scenario, do you prefer a certain distance or surface for lone speed horses? Are there ones where you really, really love?
I love lone speed, but one of the things that I'll look at, like a lot of people will look at a lone speed horse and say, oh, this horse is lone speed, I got to bet him. I want to see lone speed, but I want to see how they finish. Okay. If he's lone speed, but he doesn't finish and just comes home really slow, I'll bet against lone speed in a second. You know, horses do get brave on the lead, and I'll look for that, and I'll look for
Is
those
there a time
patterns.
cutoff that you would consider too slow for a lone speed to come back and bet? Like, what is that last quarter really bother? When does it really bother you?
Well, there is, but it's not a question I can answer definitively because it would vary from race to race, horse to horse, and level to level. But yeah, if I think for that particular race, he comes home too slow for those horses based on the other horses in the race, that's why I can't answer it definitively with a set number for that quarter. But if his last quarter just looks too slow, even if he's on the lead by himself, I'll bet against him thinking somebody's going to nail him, unless, and here's where I say intangibles and what computers can't do, unless I just know that's a gutty, tough horse that will fight. You know, some horses have that fight. Perfect example, mind control, come back on the inside against Hot Rod Charlie. Not the first time he's done that. We saw him do it to Silver State in the race at Parks. You saw him do it that day at Saratoga when he beat that Chance-a-Lot or whoever else he did. That horse will gut it out and fight. There's 3 times. Now, you can't see that in the PPs. You could see one by your nose, but you're not going to know that this horse is a fighter, you know? So I didn't bet that race or even really handicap that race. I don't bet Mom Park, but one of the things I would have looked at knowing that is this horse going to be close to Hot Rod Charlie the final quarter? Because if he is, I'll take him every day of the week. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
Hot Rod Charlie, we've already seen him lose some of those type of races. So those are the kind of things that eventually edge out grooves in your brain and you start to absorb and learn. And listen, there's nothing wrong, okay? Especially today when you got computer age. You make notes, okay? I do now. I'm so getting, you know, into technology. Now I'll be standing there with my iPhone and I'll say, hey, I don't want to say it now because the thing will start answering me. Hey, you know, all know what the iPhone is. Hey, make a note for me. And I'll say something about a horse. And then later that night, I may have 5 or 6 of them. I'll go home and I'll type them in my notes on different horses or put them right in Formulator. Formulator allows you to make notes on horses and save them. So every time that horse runs, they're in there for you. For a guy like me, that's huge. That's huge, because what do I always tell anybody who watches this show? Sometimes somebody call me a tout. I'm not a tout. I tell everybody that watches me, listen, I'm a second set of eyes. I'm another opinion. I want to, you know, guide and talk horses with you. But if you got an opinion, bet your opinion, not mine. Trust your eyes more than anything. I trust mine more than anything. There's no product out there I'm going to trust like my own eyes. And I encourage everybody to do the same thing. You know, it just that's how I believe you should play the game. But you know, you have to I have to make notes. I make notes, you know, and I refer back to them, and I use Formulator. I put notes in there, my own notes. You know, that's just an invaluable tool for me.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree with you, John. 2 more scenarios, and then we'll open it up. The next one I wanted to talk about was, you know, a race where on paper there's basically no speed in the race, right? It's either a bunch of stalker types, a bunch of.
Listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I love those races. You want to know why? Because a lot of times my friends will call me Saturday morning. There's no pace. Nobody's going to the lead. Yeah, somebody's going to the lead. Somebody always goes to the lead. And a lot of times it will jump right out at you in that first quarter. Okay. Yeah, he's always laying 3rd or 4th. He's always laying 3rd or 4th. Yeah, but look what he runs that quarter in. Nobody runs a quarter like that. In this field, he's got to be on the lead. Bang, they're on the lead.
No, and it's fun. This last Derby kind of perplexed me a lot, because I look on paper, that should not have been the fastest first half in Derby history. I mean, we've had much faster sprinters coming to the Derby than what was in this last one. We had a lot of stalkers in this Derby, and we didn't really know who was going to take the lead. It was, and right. I didn't think it would be a no-speed Derby, but I had no idea who would get the lead. And I think there's a lot of races like that where it's hard to tell
It will get,
How they'll
there'll
pan
always be
out.
races where it's hard to tell, but I promise you something. If you did it the way that I did it, whether you do it by yourself, okay, and take the time to say, okay, my past performances don't show me the individual quarters for each horse, but I can figure it out using the, 1 second being 5 to 6 lengths. So I know how fast he is. I know how fast he is. I know how fast he is. So if you do that, or if you tried Formulator the way I said and changed that one little setting and looked at it, those no speed races, you'll have a pretty good idea of who's going to be going to the lead. You'll be sitting there saying, oh no, there's no speed. Unless, and then, you got to factor in, okay, and I don't want to single the guy out, but is it Julian Leperoux? Because if it is him, he's going to probably choke back off of somebody else. So who's the second fastest horse or the third fastest horse? And maybe that's how you'll get to the lead. So you got to know the riders too. Some horses, you get to know are just laggers or just plotters and stuff like that. But generally, you will be able to figure out the speed using the individual splits for each individual horse.
Gotcha. And then one last scenario for you, John, mostly because it's always perplexed me. We get a lot of scenarios where we get a speed horse that's going up in distance. And I think relatively, those are pretty easy to figure out just based on pedigree and that sort of thing. I think the much tougher horse to handicap is the speed horse that's cutting back in distance. And I'm talking, typically these races are middle distances, so anywhere from 7 furlongs to 1.16 miles. And it's like that 1.25 mile speed horse cutting back to one of those middle distances has always perplexed me, especially when he's going up against these sprinter type horses, right? How do you deal with those type of horses, the ones cutting back?
No different than anything else. I handicap every race the same. You know what I mean? I start with the first horse. I go from the bottom of the PPs up, and I try and figure out who's going to be where and who's going to be running. Those horses are probably running much slower early than these other horses. So I'll look back and see, well, was there ever a time when they could have that kind of speed? Are they one of those sprinters that stretched out slowly over time and they can, work out and train in a manner that they can get that speed back? And I put a lot more and more stock, especially nowadays, into trainers. I like betting on trainers that I know what they're doing and know how to train. And, sometimes you'll sacrifice some price because, people like to, bet the good barns. But I think percentage wise, you're going to come out ahead in the long run. And those guys have a tremendous advantage. I mean, if you look at a guy like Todd Pletcher, who can take his horses out in sets of 6 and 8 and put them behind horses, between horses, let them come on, drop back, come on, where you got another guy that's got one horse and he's going to the track to work his horse and he's looking for somebody else. Hey, I don't want to work my horse alone. Do you have anybody galloping or going out that I could work alongside you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's a tremendous disadvantage. The quote, super trainers have an edge in training because Clement sends his horse out in sets, and Chad Brown, they send out in sets. It's a tremendous advantage. I mean, there's no way around it. You got a guy that's got 1 or 2 horses. They're not working the same day. They're not working the same distance. He's got to look for somebody to work in company with or work by themselves. Can you teach a horse as much working by himself as you can working them in sets? No, you can't. So, I look at all of that kind of stuff on turnback horses. Another thing I'll look back on turnback horses is if a horse is running 1.25 miles or 1.5 miles and he's turning back to 1 mile and he's showing speed in those longer races. Well, is he going to be able to run the kind of splits to show that speed? And can he finish as fast or faster than he starts at any point in his career? Does he show that kind of ability? And a lot of times I'll go by averages. Like I said in the beginning, I'll average it out instead of looking at an individual race. But if he doesn't show that, then I might not like him as much on the cutback as if he does. If he shows the ability to, run consistently and hold that speed or finish a little bit faster or finish the same or not tail off as much, I may like him better, cutting back than I would if he doesn't show that ability.
Gotcha. No, look, like I said, it's all great information, John. And I appreciate it. That's all the questions I
It's a
had. So let's
science and
open it up.
it's work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm not here to tell you it's easy and there's a shortcut. It's a science and it's work. But if you do it, if you take the discipline and take the time to do it, you are going to be from time to time rewarded. And if you bet the way that, we've spoken about betting and structuring many, many times, and you make it count, you'll at the end of the year, you'll be, you know what, look at this. I beat them this year. I'm in the black and I made it count. And, this is why, because, I did this, and this is differently, which is, one of the things I try and help people do. I'll be the first to say, if you're beating the game, don't fix what's not broken. If you're not beating the game and you feel like you got a shot to, and very, very few people do, then try some of these things and you will not, I will not embarrass myself. Nobody's going to come to me a year later and say, you know what, I did exactly what you said and I lost more than ever. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If it is, you're either lying or you didn't listen and didn't do it the way that I said. If you do, it's not going to happen. That's that. Let me see if I could see this chat room and see these questions before we get.
Yes, open it up. No, thanks again, John.
I don't know. I can't see it. Oh, here I go. Thank you. Naval Crown ran big. Naval Crown ran big. Do you know? Let's talk a little about that. We said we'll have a couple of stories. Man, did I get robbed? Okay. And you guys and gals know I very rarely spread around and fool around. I liked 4 horses in that race at Ascot. Okay. And there were 27 horses in the race. So I figured if there was ever a time to fool around, that was it. So I bet the one horse I liked the best on top of the other 4 in exactas. And then I bet the horse that I liked second best, who was Naval Crown, on top of the same 4 horses in exactas. Okay. And then my phone rang and I was watching outside by the pool and I got no idea what the odds are because they're not showing them over there and blah, 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 or whatever. And there's 27 horses, so I'm not even paying attention. The race goes off, okay? Blanket finish. I look up and I'm like, Naval Crown got up. I got 3 shots for second. This horse got second. That's one of the ones I got. The horse I liked the best they were right there, but was out of the exacta. But the horses I like were all right there in the blanket, but I got the exacta first and second. So I'm waiting to see the price. Let me look at the app. So I look at the app. The win is 55 to 1. The second horse is 17 to 1. There's 27 horses in the race. So I'm on the phone with my friend. I'm like, I looked into this exacta. This has got to be ridiculously huge. He's like, what are the odds? I'm like, the win is 55 to 1. The second horse is 17 to 1. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, how many horses in the race? 12. I said, what 12? There's 27 horses in the race. This has got to pay. I don't even know what this is going to pay. Comes back, pays $457 for $1. I'm like, how could that be? It's got to be wrong. 900 something for $2. How could that be? This would have been 9,000 or 20,000 on Derby Day. I don't understand it. So I put out on Twitter, I don't understand how this thing paid 900 something. I feel like I got robbed without a gun. And somebody answered me and told me, somebody from Twin Spires actually answered and said, you did get hosed. What happens is when you have over 20 horses in the field, the tote systems here and the ADWs here can't break that up. They can only go up to the 20. So what happens is they form a separate pool and they lob the extra 7 horses, or they create some kind of a field. So I don't know how it worked out, but it winds up with a completely separate pool with hardly any money in it. And all those horses lumped together somehow in some ridiculous field. So if you ever bet one of those European races on our apps and there's more than 20 horses in there, you're in trouble. If you catch bombs, you're not going to win nearly as much as you think. So That was a tough beat. HollywoodRaces.com. That's where you get the free past performances. Thank you. Any chance of putting together a formulator example of what John started to talk about up on the screen? I can't do it now, but I will definitely do something like that. Exactly, was weak, I know. Look at the first race. Yeah, but there were probably less than 20 horses in that first race, which is why over 20, you kind of get you're in trouble. So that's why that happened. And that was that. So yeah, we got some good links now. Questions? Any questions on pace or any other things on handicapping? I don't mind no questions. That means we did a good job.
John, this is Steve. I got a question on when you're looking at past performances. If there's 10 horses in a race and you're looking at the last 3 past performances, that's almost an hour per race. How do you look at your past performances?
I look at my past performance, and to the person who asked me before, Steve, 1 second, do I ever play Hong Kong? No. I just too much work and it's just too much going on. Big pools, big opportunities, just never really got into it. You know, I mean, maybe once a year, if I'm up late at night, got nothing to do, I might glance at it, but no, I don't really bet over there. Steve, what I do is I attack every card the same way. Yeah, it takes me long, but I look at every horse. I look from the bottom up. The setting in Formulator is a big advantage to me because it takes a lot of time out of my game. But I don't do as many races as I used to do. I'll do the pick 6 or the pick 5 or the pick 4. If it's a big day, I'll do all the races, but you know, I've got to get a head start on it, like Belmont Day, Derby Day, Oaks Day, you know, those days, the 2 Breeders' Cup days, you know, that's a ton of work for me. You know, Breeders' Cup, you know, the only seminars that we charge for are Derby and Breeders' Cup. These all are going to be free for the rest of the year. And I'm going to do another one like this. I'm going to do one on the sheets. And, you know, we're going to do a couple during the year. We're going to do a Travers one, maybe a Super Saturday one at Belmont. But I charge for the Derby and the Breeders' Cup ones because, I mean, it's literally 5-6 hours work each card. You know what I mean? And then another hour or 2 doing the seminar. So it's just crazy not to. But you know,
look at the race replays on every horse.
Absolutely. No, I look at replays. I start as early as I can get the PPs, and I do my replay work. And you know, with the big days, you got a little bit of an advantage because you know a lot of those horses are coming out of stakes that I've already watched and I'm already familiar with. You know, one of the things I do, Steve, is you know. The end of the day of betting, everybody forgets about it. They start looking at the next day. Okay. I don't. All right. I go back, I watch the replays cold. And when I say cold, like they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. I say replays are best watched cold. That means when the adrenaline is gone, when the excitement of the day is gone, when you could be more objective, okay, and really watch Flightline in the Met and not be caught up in the hype and really know how good or he did or did not run. So I start early. I watch the replays after, especially the big races. I DVR a lot of them. I have accounts where I can go back and watch them. Racing Post is great for European replays and stuff like that. But a lot of them I have DVR'd anyway, and I take my notes and I watch them. So I get as much of a head start as I can. But you know, it's a lot of work, Steve. There's no shortcut. Are there any specific races that you avoid? Yes, I try and avoid cheap races. I try and avoid races where I think more shenanigans and more things may be going on, like cheap maiden claiming races during the race. I love maiden special weight races. I'm not afraid of first time starter races. Maiden claiming I try and avoid. Cheap claiming I try and avoid. There's much lesser of a level of consistency in those races. Those are also races that you're not 1,000% sure everybody is trying every time. People are giving horses races and stuff like that. You know, you're less likely to have that problem in some of the bigger races and on some of the bigger days. So I try and avoid those scenarios unless they're jammed into a sequence that I like and I can't avoid them. More questions? Regarding a horse like Jack Christopher with class and speed going from 1-turn races to 2 turns in the Haskell at Monmouth, hypothetically, would the pacing area of a route favor him by allowing him to get a breather and better carry his speed over the speed favoring surface distance despite pedigree? Absolutely. You know, one of those friends I talked to on Saturday morning asks me this all the time. A lot of times he'll be like, listen, this horse couldn't win going 6. Why do you like him going 7? He's going to quit. And I'm like, no, 7, he gets to go a little bit slower, gets a little bit of a breather. A mile gets to go a little bit slower, a little bit of a breather. Doesn't going to go 22, 21, may go 22 and 4, 23, or, those extra foot. When he gets that kind of speed, he's liable to be able to carry it a little bit further. So yeah, absolutely. I think Jack Christopher is going to definitely have an edge going from 2-turn race, going from 1-turn races to 2 turns, and his speed is going to absolutely carry him because he's going to be able to relax and run slower. And another thing that I do, and some of my friends laugh at me because I'll form opinions based on this, is I watch horses and I form and make notes in my own mind as to whether or not I think they can go further. And one of the things I look for is if a horse shuts down and relaxes and runs on his own. And Jack Christopher does. Jack Christopher, when he gets where the rider wants to put him or wants him to be, if you watch him, he kind of relaxes. His ears go up. They're not pinned. He's not like all, keyed up. He relaxes. That, to me, I call it shutting down. If a horse shuts down and is not all keyed up, they can run much further than if they are. And some horses you'll watch, and I don't know the answer with Jack Christopher, and you don't know it until you see it in a race, but some horses do that when they're by themselves. And this goes back to the whole lone speed thing. They'll relax and they'll shut off when they're by themselves, okay? And then if a horse comes alongside of them, even if they're going slow, like they can go 46 to the half and relax on their own. But a horse comes alongside of them and they go 47 to the half and they're all keyed up and they quit. And you're like, why did he quit? He went slower. Why? If you watch him, okay, and you see, you'll see him all keyed up. You know what I mean? It's like a nervous athlete, and that takes out of them. So I watch that and I make notes. Yeah, shuts down. Yeah, shuts down in company. Yeah, shuts down between horses. That's when a jockey or a trainer tells you, oh, this horse exudes class. Okay. Oh, he's real class. Oh, we knew he was classy right away. Or a jock gets off a horse. Oh, how I take that, and I've spoken with trainers and riders about it, is, yeah, a horse that shuts down when he's between horses and just, that's class. Okay. That's cheap horses don't do that. Even good horses that are not classy don't do that. They may win, but they get keyed up. So those are things I look for. Now, Jack Christopher shuts off, so I think he'll go further, but I don't know that he shuts off when he's in a fight or in between horses or head and head. That we won't know until that actually happens, if it happens. So far, he's been so good where it hasn't happened. Now, why does he have an edge and a shot of maybe being able to do that, where a horse that somebody else trains might not? Because I guarantee you, just knowing Chad Brown, he's already trained head and head with another good horse. He's already trained head and head between 2 good horses. He's already trained head and head between 2 good horses and dropped back half a length and came on again. So when that happens in a race, he's not going to be, oh, what is this? You know what I mean? And, oh, wow, that's a good one. I'm in trouble. He's been there, done that. That's the edge that those barns have over somebody else. And
now you're going to go right in the cage. You hear me?
I'm sorry. I got to mute somebody. Muted. All right. I'm guessing you might say the same about Flightline going 2 turns. Yes, no. Flightline is an enigma to me. Okay. I said it going into the Met Mile, and I'll say it now. He's a immensely talented horse. Okay. We know that. And when he's right, he's fast, but he's not sound. Okay, there is something there that is not public knowledge. Okay, a horse that good doesn't run 3 times a year. So whatever that is that's wrong with him at some point is eligible to surface, be it in a race, be it the first time he gets in a fight. Yeah, he had a little adversity in the Met Mile. He broke slow. He didn't get the best of trips. He moved up, he dropped back, he moved up. We all saw it, okay? But he's never really had to gut it out yet. And I don't know that he's capable of that. And I would be very worried about him being able to do that. Now, he may never have to, because he may just be that fast and they may only run him when they got him right. And they may just run him in the Breeders' Cup Mile. They're talking about the Classic, but if he doesn't run before the Breeders' Cup, they're going to have to run him in the mile. And he's not even eligible for the Classic right now. So I'm sure they'd let him run, but you know, any horse that runs 3 times a year, you got to be worried about betting your money on. I don't care how good he is when he finishes, you know. That's just my opinion, a cold, hard fact of life. You know, it's a shame, but there's something there that we don't know what it is. Hopefully they keep him right and it never surfaces. I did get his vet report for the Met Mile. I think I posted it in Tracking Trips. I mean, he was on some painkillers and you know, legal therapeutic medicines and stuff like that. Have I ever handicapped a race at your home track, Emerald Downs? I think I handicapped their big mile race one year, about 5 or 6 years ago, and won it. No, 2 years. I handicapped it 1 year and won it. And then I thought, okay, this is a piece of cake. And then I handicapped it the next year and lost. And I never went back to Emerald Downs. And you guys got to realize, and girls, the amount of work I put in doesn't enable me to do as much work as some other people and play as many tracks. You know, I get into my meets and my tracks and take my kill shots, and you can only take so many of them. Herd dynamics. Do you believe a great trainer can change your horse's disposition? I'm going to hedge and say some horses. There are some horses, and I've been around horses. There are some horses that are stubborn, hard-headed. One of my favorite horses is one of Paulo Lobo's horses, Ivar, I-V-A-R. You may know the horse. He ran in the Breeders' Cup a couple of years ago. He's a grade 1 horse. Really, really good horse. I met that horse up close and personal. He is a mean SOB. He will bite you, kick you, hurt you. He is just a nasty, nasty horse. And Paulo Lobo is a great trainer and great horseman. There is nobody on this earth that can change that horse's disposition. Okay. He is a tough, mean horse that will bite, kick, maul, whatever he can, crush you in the stall. I once read an interview with Eddie Arcaro where he said the same thing about Citation, where they asked him, oh, it must be so great to ride him. He's like, yeah, it's great to ride him. And, you know, it's great to win those races, but the SOB tries to kill me every time I sit on his back. You know, and I mean, he went to say that the horse actually tried to ram him in the stall, ram him in the starting gate. I mean, he said that the SOB tries to kill me every time I ride him. Citation was a mean, nasty horse too. And a lot of good horses tend to be that way. I've noticed. I don't know if a lot of trainers would agree, but I've known a lot of really good horses that were not all that friendly. Some of them are really sweet, but some good horses are nasty. Do you typically put your bets on in advance or wait till? I'm a terrible procrastinator with betting. Usually I bet as late as possible. Usually, there are rare exceptions, but usually I bet as late as possible. Am I coming back to the daily Past the Wire for Saratoga this year? No, I am not going to do the Saratoga today this year. It was a lot of work last year, a lot of responsibility. We had some winners, but I found having to do the show every day and people wanting to know, no, I'm going to do a couple of them. I'm going to do them when I like something and on the big days. But when I do it every day, I found that, oh, well, everybody wants me to give them a horse or like something. I don't like anything today. Put me in a bad spot. I don't want to mislead anybody. I'm not going to just give horses out for the sake of giving horses out. I mean, those of you that are on tracking trips will know a lot of them say like, I don't like nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, it's quality, not quantity. And that was a lot of work every morning, having to get up 6 o'clock in the morning and do that show. It just was a lot of work. So I'm going to do it on the days I like some. I'll do it not every day, but it's going to be once, twice, 3 times a week. And you could rest assured on the big days in Saratoga, almost every Saturday is a big day. So I'll do plenty, and I'm just not every day. I mean, and let me tell you, I hate to say it, but some of the weekday cards at Saratoga are not all that exciting like they used to be years ago. So it's not like we'll be missing that much during the week. You know, we'll get the big days in. More questions. Floor's open. AMA, you can ask me anything about anything. I know I left a couple of people hanging last time with questions on the chat that I didn't see on the Belmont webinar. So if there was any that I missed and you're here now, I apologize. It was not intentional, but I will answer them now for anybody who was here. If not, I'll tell you, I promised a story. I'll tell you a funny story. Long layoffs. What do I look for? I'll get to Canada in a minute. Long layoffs. What do you look for? I look for a trainer. I look if the horse is laid off before. I look if the horse has won first time out. There were certain trainers, Chad Brown, I don't care, you're off 2 years, doesn't matter. You know, there were just certain guys. Baffert, doesn't matter. Bill Mott, doesn't matter. Christophe Clement, doesn't matter. Shug, doesn't matter. Those guys just doesn't matter. A girl took me to Canada. I met a girl that lived in Toronto, and we went, you know, we had like a long distance relationship where she came here every other weekend. I went there every other weekend. I think that I kept Air Canada out of bankruptcy for about a year, flying so much between the two of us, because they went, I think they filed bankruptcy when we broke up. We had a couple of different breakups over the years, but at one point I decided, I'll stay in Toronto for a while. And I wound up staying, like, I would say maybe close to 2 years. You know, coming back home once in a while, but, you know, pretty much staying there and coming back for a weekend once a month or something like that. But I was pretty much a Canadian in Toronto for about two years. And I liked it. It's a very nice city. I used to call it like a little clean mini New York because it was pretty clean when I was there. And I loved the fact that you could go to the window at Woodbine and bet races anywhere. Like I hit the pick six there for 100 and something thousand the day after Big Brown lost the Belmont Stakes. There was a carryover. The next day I hit the pick six. I want to say I paid 120, 130,000, something like that. They don't even ask you for ID at the window when you go cash the ticket. I mean, no tax, no nothing. They give you the full amount. I was like, this is beautiful. I could stay here for forever. I used to love it because when I first started going, she lived with her family, and I used to stay on Avenue Road in either the Hyatt or the Four Seasons. And I used to go with a stack of hundreds in my hand, and I would go to the desk at the Hyatt or the Four Seasons. And back then, the American dollar was worth something, and I'd give the girl or the guy 100, they give me back 160 in Canadian money. Give me another 100, they give me another 160. Give me another. I'd say you could come here with 750,000 and be a millionaire like that. This is great. And I didn't see a big difference in prices. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's, well, the dollar's worth more, blah, blah. You went out for dinner, it cost you the same thing it cost you here, but you had more money because they give you more for the 100. You know what I mean? Now they probably give you less than that. Now you give them 100, they probably give you 90. I don't know, but I'm saying it ain't the same. But then it would be like, it was about 160 or 150 for a $100 bill. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I'll go back even before that. Okay. Before I even went to Canada, Peter Walder and I, when I had horses with him, and I got to go look at my wall for the year because that's where the win pictures are. Hold on. So we're going back to like 2000. Okay. We would claim horses at Woodbine, okay, and run them at Gulfstream. And I'd claim a horse at Woodbine for 10,000. And he'd say, okay, you only got to send me like 6,800. I'm like, why? He goes, because of the exchange rate. It's only 6,800 American. So we would claim the horse for 10,000. We would bring him to Gulfstream, and it would show in the form claimed 10,000. Didn't have no breakdown and no exchange rate. You know what I mean? But it only cost me 6,800 or whatever it was, you know? So we would run the horse for 7,500, and it would look like we were dropping, and we weren't, you know? And we'd win, and I'd make money on the purse, and I'd make money on the 7, and it was the greatest thing in the world. And it was, oh, you drop all your horses to win. I'm like, okay, whatever. I wasn't dropping any of them, you know? Claim for 16,000. I could run for 12.5, and I was still it was beautiful. Like I said, I don't know the exchange rate now, but that was a wonderful thing. All right, I'll give you a racetrack story that was funny. When I was a mutual clerk, okay, I was a great mutual clerk because I was fast as lightning. I never made no mistakes, and I was just good, and I knew how to bet, so I knew how to punch tickets. Where I was bad was I had my form open up at the window, and I would close the window to make my own bets. I didn't give a shit who was out there. All right, I was getting my bets in first, and I used to deliberately, my dad used to get so mad at me because we used to ride together to the track, and I'd always make us late because he was a union guy, so he was going to work no matter what. He was guaranteed a window. He had his same set $50 window or whatever window he had. He was set at that window. All right, me, I had to do what they call shape up. In other words, they need you as they need you. They put you on, give you a window. I was an extra. So if you were late, you went to the end of the list. Now, why did I want to be at the end of the list? Because they very rarely got to the end of the list, and I wouldn't work. And I would much rather hang out and bet and walk around the track and work than work. So I would deliberately make him late the whole way there. He'd be yelling and whatnot. So I would always make us late. Okay, may he rest in peace. But we had a lot of fun. But he was always mad at me for that. And anyway, so one day it was a very, very crowded day. It was either Belmont Stakes Day or Jockey Club Gold Cup Day. And one of my pet peeves, I was a very honest clerk. Okay, very straight up honest clerk. One of my pet peeves were when people used to come up to the window. Now, back then it was different. There was no ADWs and no simulcasting. So your line was long all day. You know what I mean? So you were punching tickets. Next person was there. The line was 20 deep the whole time from bell to bell. As soon as you opened up your window to sell tickets, you sold and cashed tickets at the same window. It was a long line the whole time. So one day I'm working at Belmont, crowded day. It was either Belmont Day, Jockey Club Gold Cup Day, one of those big days. I didn't get there late enough not to work. On those days, they put everybody on anyway. So there I am working miserable and betting. And what used to annoy me was when people would come to the window and didn't know how to bet and would just call their bets wrong. And you'd be amazed at how many people don't know how to bet. They'd come to the window, give me the 5. Okay, how? How much? What? Box me 2, 7, 11. Okay, triple, exacta, what? You know what I mean? I don't want to be, I like somebody to come and give me $2 exacta box, 2, 7, 11. Boom, know what you're doing if you come to the window, okay? So this one guy comes to the window, all right, crowded, long line, and he goes, show the 11. And holds up money, and I see the money in his hand, and all I see is a $20 bill. And I was working on the second floor of the grandstand at Belmont, and I wasn't on the side facing the track. I was on the other side where you actually get like worse bettors facing the other way because nobody's back there that really knows what they're doing. Or that's like the worst spot to be, and that's where they stuck me, probably because I was always late and they were sticking it. Anyway, that's where I was. So this guy comes and he's got the $20 bill in his hand, and he goes, show the 11. So I'm like, how much? He goes, show the 11. So I'm like, okay, this idiot probably wants $2 to show on the 11 because that's what they're all betting there. And he's waving that $20 bill in my face. I'm going to stick it to him and teach him a lesson. I'm going to give him 20, show the 11. And then he's going to tell me, no, I wanted $2. And I'm going to say, why didn't you say so? This is what's happening in my mind. So he goes, show the 11. So I hit 20, show 11. He grabs the ticket before he puts the money down. He looks at it, then he throws the money down and walks away. Fast. So I pick the money up and it's a bunch of 20s. And I counted, it's 200. I'm like, whoa, mister. ignores me, he's gone. So the next person's calling their bets. I'm like, hold up a minute. So I'm thinking, okay, this moron wanted 200 to show on the 11 because I got 200 in my hand. I gave him 20. So I hit 180, show 11, boom, ticket pops up. I put it on the side. Like, okay, I got the guy covered, right? People are betting. Race goes off. I look, full field of 12 horses. All right, my horse loses. His 11 horse runs third, pays $680 to show. I'm like, okay, I got this idiot's ticket. Here it is right here, 180 show to 11. Now it's worth like 700, 800, whatever it is. I mean, it's 180 show to 11, it's worth about 600 or whatever. But the post paid $680 to show. I remember it. So I'm selling cash and tickets, selling cash and tickets. Sure enough, 10 minutes in, there he is. Okay, mad like an SOB. Okay, fuming red mad. And he takes the money that he must have cashed the ticket and he goes, "You make a big effing mistake." And he throws the money down. And he goes, "I won." I said, whoa, stop yelling. Okay, just calm yourself down. I didn't make a mistake. You made a mistake. You don't tell me how much you want. You're waving money in my face. You're yelling at me. You should have said 200 show to 11. You never said a word. I got your ticket right here. When you ran away, I realized what you wanted. You wanted a 200 show. Here's your 180 show on the 11. Take your ticket. Have a nice day. He takes the ticket just like this, right? Takes your picture. He looks and he goes, no. And he throws it back and he goes, "I don't want to know nothing. You give me back my 180. I looked at him. I said, okay. And I took out the 20s. I counted 180. Said, get GTFOH. Goodbye. He grabbed the money, ran away. Can't make it up. Now, if you got people like that betting, what can I say? You got an edge. That's what the guy said. I don't want to know nothing. Give me back my 180. The guy working next to me goes, "Did I just hear that correctly?" I said, "Yes, you did." He goes, "You're buying lunch." I'm like, "My pleasure." What can I tell you? I tried to do the right thing for the guy. All right. You know, some people you can't help no matter how hard you try, you know, but that was always, did I ever play greyhounds? Never in my life bet on a greyhound. Never. I bet on the trotters once. Okay, once I went to, I think Roosevelt or Yonkers Raceway in the Bronx once. I don't even know how fast the trotters run a mile. I never bet harness. I think I've been to the Saratoga harness track 2 or 3 times. I just went to hang out. Don't even bet. But that guy, he didn't want to know nothing. He wanted his 180. So I gave it to him. What am I going to do? You know? And that's it. And
John?
Go ahead.
John, Joe Denti.
Hey, Joe.
How you doing? It's funny that you said that about Canada because we're in a harness game for many years.
Oh, okay.
We got a small farm up at Saratoga. We buy
Really?
a lot of horses out of PI, out of the
Okay.
Maritimes over there in Charlottetown and Summerside, and we get them for decent prices. Bring them over here to the States. We put them into condition races. We run them.
Right.
And then we resell them, and it's a pretty good deal. I mean, obviously you got to get lucky, you know, you got to get the right horses, but the difference in price from Canada to here, because the horses are basically the same when they run the times.
Right.
People, you know, it's the only thing is it's about $1,000 to ship over the border now.
Right.
So but it's very interesting that you said that, because in the harness game it's like the same thing. You know,
Yeah.
when you buy a horse for 10,000 US, it's 60 something hundred Canadian.
Right.
So
It was
down here, we bring them down here, we put them in a 7,500 claimer like you did. We bought one for we bought them at I think for 12.5, and we brought him down here and put him in a 12.5, but he was showing 15 claiming lines up there.
Right.
We wound up getting 2 or 3 starts. They claimed them off us, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes you can make some good money doing it.
No, listen, I felt like it should have been illegal what we were doing. It was literally, I felt like I was stealing money, and it was amazing because even trainers like in Florida at the time wouldn't realize that, you know, we were paying less for the horses. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
It was just it was really a beautiful thing while it lasted, while I was doing it. Like I said, I don't know the exchange rate now, but according to you, it's still, you buy a horse for 10,000, it's only, less than 7,000
And you
American.
got, and then you have
Right,
to get
even
that
getting them
extra.
here with the 1,000, you're still ahead of the game.
Yeah,
You know
oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
No,
Right.
I mean, we did really well on a lot of the cheaper horses, for 10 or $12,000 range. And because another thing up in Canada too, the purse structure is different. So if you come down here in the States and the Canadian over there in the PI Maritime area, they run for a lot of $3,000 purses and under. So when you come here to the States, they're not really pari-mutuel wins because of the purse structure. So now the more horse might have 5 or 6 wins up there. He could be a real good horse. He comes down here, still fits down one as a 1.
Right.
Because of the purse structure. Anything under 3,000 is not a pari-mutuel race here in the States. So it's pretty sharp. If you get to know the ins and outs of it, it's pretty sharp.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Then there's obviously still money to be made playing the game that way.
Yeah. And getting back to one other thing too, with the Track Judge with Charlie, great product. I want to thank you for turning me on to it.
I'm glad you like it.
If you look at his race reports, he's got the first quarter, the acceleration to the quarter to the half.
Right. No, I know.
3 furlongs and then the stretch pace. And lots of times he'll show you where all the horse is exerting his energy.
Right.
And it's pretty, very, very, I mean, I've been tracking it for a while. Pretty consistent. Lots of times he'll have the first quarter, he'll have like, if you look up on top where the violins are, he'll have like 2 E horses in there and like 2 P horses. But if you look at the first quarter, the P horses got the lead.
Right.
Not the E horses.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at like what you're saying, if you look at the form, and now you're looking at the 2 E horses, a lot of people are going to say, well, these 2 horses are going to battle for the lead. Meanwhile, the horse that's got the P is actually faster than the 2 E horses.
Right. No, absolutely. No, I agree. That's why I got that, and that's how and why I got involved with Charlie. He really, sharp guy. And it is a really good product. And
and thank you so
I
much.
look at it myself. Yeah, no, my pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. And if anybody's interested in that, it's an algorithm-based thing. It's not cheap, but it's an algorithm-based thing that gives a lot of information and a lot of really good breakdowns. It's tailored to the way that this guy, Charles Judge, he's a retired doctor. It's very similar to some of the computer models out there that these guys use. I could always have anybody wants to see it, send me an email. I'll get you an example for one day or 2 days, and I'll give you a couple of days and let you check it out and see if it's something you like. And then if you did want to get it or subscribe to it, I put you in touch with Charlie, and they've got like a little bit of a complicated way that you get it, but you talk to him. And Joe, you probably went through it. You talk to him.
And what I like about it, what I'm studying a lot about it, is on the turf races, the distance turf races. Okay, they got the T's, like the number 1 T, like the total pace energy,
Right.
like at the end. Now, if you look up at the graphs, you'll see that this horse is going to be flying at the end. You see he's got the total pace energy like 244. He's ranked number 1. Them horses close a ton, man. They hit the board almost every time. It's unbelievable. And at price, 20 to 1, 15 to 1. I mean, it just,
for sure.
it's consistent. I mean, very, very consistent.
For
I
sure.
think it's a great product, and also you do an outstanding job. I watched a lot of seminars. I've been through a lot of seminars, and we actually got you through Bruno, the workout guy.
Okay.
Good friends, personal friends with my brother. So he was the
All right.
one who turned us on to you.
I appreciate that.
And that was a good turn on. So,
Bruno's one of the few guys whose workout reports, he's the only guy whose workout reports I actually look at, because he does his homework, you know what I mean? He's very honest about it. If you
he's very thorough, and he's
Yeah.
like you. He shoots from the hip, and he tells you as it is. He's very very respectful guy, and he's not.
He's a friend of mine. Bruno is a friend of mine. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's not going to Saratoga either this year. He said. So
Yeah,
he's going to
no.
stay down at Churchill or something.
Yeah,
Said,
my only trip this year is to the Breeders' Cup. I'm going to go to Lexington for a week for the Breeders' Cup. That's going to be my only trip. I'll leave you with two other quick, funny ones, and then I'll let you go unless anybody's got any other questions. One of the funniest things I ever saw at the racetrack was, those of you who've been to Belmont will know what I'm talking about, but at Belmont on the first floor in the grandstand, and I haven't been there in so long, so I don't know if it's still there, but when you come in from the paddock, okay, and you walk right into the first floor of the grandstand at Belmont, on the right side wall, there was an elevator that used to go downstairs to the basement, okay? Probably still there. It's right when you walk in the door, right on the right-hand wall, okay? I'm assuming it's still there. I don't think they would get rid of an elevator, okay? One day, a race goes off and they finish in a photo finish, okay? And back then, like I said, there was no simulcast, no nothing. Everybody was focused on the race. There was no simulcast in TVs. Every TV was showing the race. The crowd would yell, and the people that would watch outside would all rush in to watch the photo on the monitor to see who got it. You know what I mean? So one day there was a photo finish. I was involved in it. And I'm watching the slow motion replay. And I had watched the race on one of the TVs outside from the paddock. And I started walking to the inside and I'm watching on that TV. Poor guy must have had a heart attack or something happened to him. He collapsed. And he's on a stretcher. Okay. And there's two Pinkerton security guards wheeling the stretcher, and they're wheeling him into that elevator, which goes down to the first aid. Okay, the first aid at Belmont was in the basement at that time. I'm assuming it still probably is. So the race goes off. There's a photo. They're showing the replay, and this poor guy is in the elevator, half in, with one of the guys in with his back in the elevator, already in. The guy's half out on the stretcher. And the other Pinkerton's got like the other end of the stretcher, and he's outside of the elevator. And the one guy's pulling him in, and he's pulling him out, leaning back, yelling at people, "Who got the photo? Who got the photo?" And he's holding the guy and the yelling. I'm like, look at this. The poor guy could be dying, having a heart attack. This guy's worried about who got the photo. This is what you're dealing with. So I never forgot it. I remember like it was yesterday. I thought it was pretty funny. Hopefully that guy was all right. And I guess I can leave you with that. I was going to tell you another one, but I better not. I'm too critical of social media, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. But I'm not a fan of social media. I'm on it a lot. I'm only on it because of Past the Wire. I'm on it less than ever. What was the sheet you sent out a few times on Track Trip? That was what we were talking about. The track judge thing I sent out a few times on Tracking Trips. That was that sheet. It was pretty funny, Gary. But I get in trouble. So the only reason I'm on social media is because of Past the Wire. If not for Past the Wire, I would never be on Twitter, Facebook, nothing else. Past the Wire has an Instagram account. I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't run it. We have somebody that runs it for us. I don't even know what's on it. I'm assuming horse pictures. For all I know, I could be anything. I know. I'm sure it's horse pictures because the girl's very good who runs it. And she's a horse person. So I'm sure our Instagram is probably really good because I have nothing to do with it. So that's that. But I'm not a fan of social media and the horse community on there. There's some good people I met on there. Some of you are in this room right now, or that I got to know are in this room right now. But for the most part, it's just a vile environment, and just I avoid it as much as I possibly can, which is impossible for me all the way because of the website and now the YouTube channel and everything that we're trying to do with all of that, which is going really, really well. Those of you that are not familiar with the YouTube channel, we've got a lot of great videos on there. We really do. And I looked back over the year at some of the interviews that we've done. I mean, we've got some like major people, and every one of them talked about stuff that just you don't hear anywhere else. You know what I mean? I mean, Lafitte Pincay talking about, losing races because he was in the hot box and cramping up. Yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. Ron Turcott talking about secretariats, owners and trainers, not being the quote nicest people around, and stuff. Just stuff that just doesn't come up in other places. Paulo Lobo cried, one of my favorite ones. A guy started crying when we were talking about some of the stuff he had gone through. Just a really, really great set of interviews. The new show that I did with Michael Wilson, Unfiltered, is pretty much unfiltered and no holes barred. Really good stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, you might find a lot of good stuff there. I think the next one of these we're going to do is probably, if there's no big days coming up, if there's a big day coming up, we'll do it then. But if not, probably I'm going to do like a handicap one on reading the sheets, Thorograph and Rags, and how I read them and how I look at them and how I use them, which is a little different than everybody else. And I think there's a right and wrong way to do that as well. And I think a lot of people do it wrong. So hopefully some of you will join in on that and get a lot out of that as well. So if nothing else, I won't take any more of any of your time. I thank you all for watching the Pace Makes the Race Past the Wire seminar. All righty. Ciao for now, everybody.
Breed the best to the best and hope for the best.
Vacoma broke well on the outside. And
But you don't expect to get speed like this.
Inside, Vacoma continues to battle on down the rail. It is Vacoma who's going to win the Met Mile.
Been there, done that. Nobody does it better.